He's a piano prodigy and the only blind contestant to make American Idol's Top 10. A live performance from Scott McIntyre.
Well, welcome to this edition of the 700 Club. This great land of ours, the United States, is heading for the most predictable economic crisis in our history. That's the dire warning from the head of the Congressional Budget Committee, Congressman Paul Ryan. He's trying to prevent that crisis from happening.
The congressman has a plan to bring the federal deficit under control. David Brody talked to Ryan about his plan and America's future.
Paul Ryan looks like just a regular guy, but make no mistake, this congressman from Wisconsin doubles as the House Budget Chairman and is the man on the Republican front lines when it comes to solving America's debt crisis.
We're borrowing 40 cents of every dollar our government spends today. We already know our children are going to have a diminished future if we stay on the current path.
Ryan is consumed by numbers. He lives and breathes them, and he's come up with a budget that takes serious steps to rein in a $16 trillion national debt, and it's growing by the day. He's been preaching about this impending disaster for years.
Let me ask you a question. What if your president, your senator, and your congressman knew it was coming?
His plan wouldn't cut defense spending, but everything else in the budget would be trimmed by roughly 20%. While his budget passed the Republican House, it's dead on arrival in the Senate because Democrats say it would take away benefits from low-income Americans.
The liberals will say that about 60% of the budget cuts that you're proposing are going to hit low-income Americans. What's the response?
Well, I would say, first of all, we need to fix our social safety net. And spending still continues under our budget on Medicaid and these other programs. They just don't grow at the crazy pace that the president's proposing because those become unsustainable.
Ryan wants to partially privatize Medicare to save the system, but liberal groups say that will hurt seniors. So they have run campaign ads showing Republicans throwing grandma off a cliff.
I thought you'd be late to this interview because you'd be busy throwing Granny off the cliff. But you showed up on time. I mean, what is the deal with the stereotypes that are out there? I mean, you haven't thrown Granny off the cliff anytime recently, have you?
No, we're used to this from the president. Unfortunately, the president doesn't like to offer solutions. He likes to offer attacks. He likes to distort and demagogue, and it's really beneath him, I think.
President Obama's budget plan didn't receive one single Republican or Democratic vote in the House. So instead, the president has taken direct aim at Ryan's plan, calling it social Darwinism. Then he trots out the impending doom scenario.
If this budget becomes law and the cuts were applied evenly, starting in 2014, over 200,000 children would lose their chance to get an early education in the Head Start program. 2 million mothers and young children would be cut from a program that gives them access to healthy food.
This is where faith comes into the equation. Liberal churches generally see the government as a vital way to help people in need. But Paul Ryan's Catholic faith teaches him that less government is the way to go.
To me, the principle of subsidiarity, which is really federalism, meaning government closest to the people governs best. Having a civil society of the principle of solidarity where we, through our civic organizations, through our churches, through our charities, through all of our different groups where we interact with people as a community, that's how we advance the common good, by not having big government crowd out civil society, but by having enough space in our communities so that we can interact with each other and take care of people who are down and out in our communities.
Ultimately, the real question is, will anything ever really change in Washington? The debt is huge, but so is the political risk when taking tough votes to rein in spending.
The political will by these politicians, I mean, do they have the political will to get some of the serious deficit reduction done?
Look, what we're experiencing in America, in Wisconsin, are decades of politicians making lots of empty promises to voters. And those empty promises are going to quickly become broken promises if we have a debt crisis. What we believe we owe the country is the truth. We're at a very precarious moment in America. Do we want the American idea, that opportunity society with a safety net? Or do we want this cradle-to-grave welfare state, this sort of European social democracy in a debt crisis, a nation in debt, doubt, and decline?
David Brody, CBN News, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A great man, Paul Ryan, he's speaking truth. He's courageous enough to tell people the way it is. And for some reason, the Democrats in the Senate will not acknowledge the facts. You cannot sustain yourself by borrowing 40 cents on every dollar you spend. You cannot sustain it. Any household that would borrow 40% of their living costs would soon be in bankruptcy, and there would be no hope for them. But here we have a great country that has the ability to print money. Well, we can't print it but so long before people say this stuff is worthless papers, and we're not going to take it anymore. Look what's happening to Greece. Look what's going to be happening to Portugal, and what's going to be happening to Italy and Spain and these other countries. All these social programs that seem so nice are suddenly going to collapse, and people won't have jobs. They'll be out on the street. Families will be torn apart. Education will not be working. Police won't be on their job because they'll be on strike looking for more money. And what the president had to say was pure and utter demagoguery. It was bitter, nasty, and full of falsehoods. And it's just appalling that the leader of the free world would stoop that low instead of coming up with a solution. He proposed the budget. The president proposed the budget, went to the Congress, didn't get a single vote, neither from his party or from the other party. Not a vote for that thing because the congressman recognized it was a joke. Well, you can get the latest on the politics in the presidential race by checking out the Brody file on CBNnews.com. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Lee.
Pat, Mitt Romney says he won't rule out Rick Santorum as a running mate. In fact, he says he won't rule out anyone at this point. Romney says he doesn't have a list of possible vice presidential candidates at this point, but he adds that he would certainly consider the people he had the privilege of running against. He says the first criterion is whether or not the person could be the president, if necessary. Several earthquakes struck within minutes of each other in Oregon, California, and Mexico last night. A magnitude 7 quake struck an area in the mountains of western Mexico. It caused tall buildings to sway more than 200 miles away in Mexico City, but there was no major damage. 2 other quakes struck off the coast of Oregon and California. Analysts say there's no evidence the quakes were connected. They were produced by unrelated tectonic plates. They came on the same day, though, of 2 massive quakes striking near Indonesia, measuring 8.6 and 8.2. Tsunami watchers were issued, but later lifted. That was good news that they did not have a tsunami over there, Pat.
It is good news, but once again, the Pacific plate is bumping up against the North American plate. The North American plate is moving somewhat westward. The Pacific plate is moving somewhat northward, and they begin to intersect. And then you look around the so-called Ring of Fire, and they are all connected. This world we live in, these plates do work with one another. And if they have a major earthquake over the Aceh area in Indonesia and Sumatra, we'll be having things in Alaska and on the coast of South America. But it looks like an unusual period of seismic activity. Well, the Greens don't like coal. They've done everything they can to cut the coal industry in America, but there is bright news for those in West Virginia and others that mine the coal. Lee.
Related to that, U.S. exports of coal hit their highest levels in 2 decades last year. Demand for coal is strong in other countries, but it's falling here in the U.S. Coal faces competition from natural gas and expensive new government regulations for coal-fired power plants. That means companies are looking for new customers internationally, and many of them are in Asia, which is growing quickly and needs new energy sources. Prosecutors face tough legal hurdles in their second-degree murder case against George Zimmerman. They will have to prove that Zimmerman intentionally went after 17-year-old Trayvon Martin instead of killing him in self-defense, and they will have to refute arguments that he had the right under a Florida law to use deadly force. Zimmerman's new attorney says his client is concerned about getting a fair trial.
There's obviously been a lot of information flowing. I think a lot of it's been both premature and maybe inappropriate.
But the prosecutor in the case says she's just looking for justice.
It is the search for justice for Trayvon that has brought us to this moment. The first thing we did was pray with him. We opened our meeting in prayer.
Tensions have been rising in the area where the killing happened in Sanford, Florida, but Martin's family has asked for calm. Nearly 1 in 4 babies is born to unmarried couples who are living together. The Centers for Disease Control interviewed more than 22,000 men and women. About 23% of the reported births were to unmarried heterosexual couples who were living together when their child was born. That's up from 14% in 2002. Pat?
Folks, like it or not, our government has made it tough to be married. There's a so-called marriage penalty in the tax law. They've tried to eliminate it, but it looks like it's coming back. There are strictures against marriage, and there are all kinds of incentives not to get married. And so young couples say, why bother? Why go through all those formalities when all we can do is just shack up? We can live together and we can have babies and so forth. But that's not the kind of stable society we want. Young children need a mother and a father, and they need a stable environment. And so much of the abuse that takes place, especially sexual abuse against young children, takes place from live-in boyfriends that don't really have a love and compassion and care for the children. So this is not a healthy trend for this great nation. We've got a lot of other pathologies that we should be worried about, but this is certainly one of them. The family is the foundational building block of our society. And if it is corroded, and it looks like there's an effort by the so-called liberals and progressives to tear it apart, if that happens, heaven help the next generation. Lee?
Lack of sleep could increase your risk of obesity and diabetes. A new study finds irregular sleep patterns can slow down your metabolism, and that could contribute to weight gain. Researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston also found disrupted sleep raises blood sugar levels, which could lead to diabetes. Chronic sleep problems are common in the U.S. Government research has found that up to 40% of adult Americans do not get enough sleep. A lack of sleep has also been associated with heart attacks and stroke. Pat, back to you.
Thank you. You know, if you fast, there's a rise of what's called leptin, which cuts down your appetite, and leptin is the thing that you need to, curb the eating. On the other hand, when you lose sleep, there's something called ghrelin, and it's a hormone that says you are hungry, you've got to feed yourself. And so lack of sleep makes hunger, and hunger means more eating, which means more obesity. Wow. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but there's a lot
you watch the 700 Club, you learn things.
I know. I need to tune in more regularly.
Really, I want you to do it. All right, go ahead. All right.
Well, up next, in Somalia, 2 terrorist groups, Al-Shabaab and Al-Qaeda, have joined forces in a reign of terror.
I was blindfolded, and they put me in a dark, underground cell. They beat me up with a wooden baton. When they finally took the blindfold off, I noticed 3 dead bodies in the room.
Find out why this man was targeted and how he made a daring escape. That's next.
Does the sun make your deck or patio so unbearably hot you can't use it? I discovered that a Sunsetter retractable awning is the perfect solution for a too sunny deck. It cools down your deck or patio and protects you from damaging sun exposure. Call now for your $200 savings certificate, DVD, and idea kit. Choose the ultra-convenient motorized model for push-button ease or the manual model. Sunsetter awnings are definitely a great value and a creative way to add comfortable outdoor living to your life. They open or close in less than a minute and immediately begin to cool your deck or patio. I love Sunsetter awnings, and you will too. Call right now for this valuable $200 savings certificate so you can stay cool while enjoying your deck or patio.
Call 1-800-231-9460 now. We'll rush you this free awning idea kit with a $200 savings certificate. That's 1-800-231-9460. Call now.
Tomorrow, a born performer hits the big time.
It was all about the fame, the money, the women.
And the drugs.
I injected heroin probably 5 to 15 times a day.
MTV star Bobby Hayden's fall from fame, all the way to Skid Row.
I absolutely remember going a year without a bath.
and the ticket that gave him a way out.
You got to slow this down a little bit, Jesus.
On the 700 Club.
You remember Black Hawk Down. You remember Mogadishu. You remember the fact that our troops were butchered and massacred in that horrible hellhole. And those warlords were running free. And George Bush sent a few people in, George Bush Sr., I might add, to quell the uprising, and he failed. But it's a land of pirates, Islamic terrorists, Somalia. It's now even more of a powder keg since two radical groups have joined forces. And it's the Christians who are in their line of fire. Gary Lane brings us this exclusive look at a safe house where converts from Islam are finding refuge.
Somalia's Islamist terror group Al-Shabaab recently joined with Al-Qaeda. It now wants Sharia law and to rid the Muslim country of all Christians. Specific targets are Christian converts from Islam. This Al-Shabaab video swept the internet in September 2008. It shows the brutal beheading of 25-year-old aid worker Mansour Mohammed. He converted to Christianity in 2005. 1 year ago, this Muslim convert to Christianity was awakened in his home by Al-Shabaab soldiers. We agreed to protect his identity and give him a different name, Abdi.
They ransacked my house, searched my bag, and found several pages from a Bible. They had crosses on them.
Abdi was taken away, imprisoned, and tortured.
Tell me what they then did to you and what they said to you.
I was blindfolded, and they put me in a dark, underground cell. They beat me up with a wooden baton. They wanted to know where I got the Bible pages, and if I knew of any others like me. When they finally took the blindfold off, I noticed 3 dead bodies in the room. They placed them there just to frighten me.
His torturers said they were going to kill him. But late one night, Abdi and 2 cellmates made a daring escape.
The guards thought they had locked our cell door, but it wasn't locked. We opened it, ran to the wall, and started climbing. The guards opened fire on us. Bullets killed one of my cellmates, but the other prisoner and I jumped over the wall.
Reunited with his family, Abdi is now living in a safe place. He says he still suffers physical pain from the torture he endured. Spiritually, he feels closer to God.
I was happy to go through all this because now I'm stronger spiritually. People prayed for me to escape. Their prayers are what saved my life.
Somali Christian leaders estimate less than 200 Christians exist in this country of 10 million. Secret believers like this woman, she wants us to call her Fozia, often suffer punishment and humiliation for refusing to conform to Islamic law. Fozia says as a Christian, she could not bring herself to abide by Al-Shabaab's requirement that women wear a burqa. While Fozia dressed modestly, she did not want her face fully covered. Al-Shabaab Sharia police, similar to these on patrol in Banda Aceh, Indonesia, noticed Fozia walking in public without a burqa.
They said the clothing I was wearing was unacceptable. They said I was naked.
Fozia received a public flogging, punishment similar to that inflicted on this Pakistani woman by the Taliban. Fozia received 30 lashes. She inched her way home despite debilitating injuries.
A female neighbor came to my house to wash my wounds. I was bleeding, my flesh was peeling, and it was extremely painful.
Fozia says it's too risky to own a Bible, so she listens to nightly Christian radio broadcasts from neighboring Kenya. Fozia found refuge at the home of a Christian friend in another Somali city. But what happens to other Somali Christians when their lives are threatened for leaving Islam? Some are receiving help from an American mission group. This safe house not only gives former Muslims a place to eat and sleep, it also provides them with spiritual fellowship and discipleship. It's run by mature believers who host no more than 2 people at a time. Eventually, this safe house will help these temporary residents transition to life on their own. Basma was 7 months pregnant when her Muslim husband divorced her. With nowhere to go, she returned to her mother's house, where she delivered her baby. But when Basma's family discovered she had become a Christian, her stepfather kicked her out of the house.
He said I was infecting the entire household, and he threatened to kill me if I didn't leave.
Basma was forced to live on the street with her infant until a VOM worker met her and offered her refuge at the safe house.
I was praying that God would give me a house where I could sleep. This is a very good house, a house of worship, a house of God. He answered my prayers.
Fozia and other Somali Christians are praying for a better life, one free from the oppression of al-Shabaab and other Islamists.
Pray that we Somali believers will live our lives closer to the kingdom of God. Pray that we will endure the weight of life in this Islamic nation.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Somalia.
That's Africa. You don't normally think that kind of persecution goes on in Africa, but Somalia is a case in itself. There was a lady named Hirsi Ali who ran for the parliament, the Dutch parliament, after she got out of that, but she wrote a book called Infidel. It's very powerful, explaining her treatment as a woman in Islam. She apparently, what I'm told is, she did not become a Christian, and I'm not sure she has any faith, but she showed the folly of Islam. But ladies and gentlemen, why in America doesn't the so-called mainstream media expose these things? Why don't they talk about it? They don't want to. There's a conspiracy of silence to keep the American people from realizing how terrible Islam is. And this is an extreme example of what happens in Islam. The persecution of women, particularly throughout that area, the Taliban and others, and what's happened in Saudi Arabia where a woman can't even drive an automobile. Why don't we talk about that? Well, we're talking. You'll know. Terry?
Coming up, millions of fans know him as the first blind finalist on American Idol.
My PSA was 14. One day, Janet says, "You're going to the doctor." I needed to get a second opinion, so we contacted Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
To find out more about our unique treatment options for complex and advanced stage cancer, go to cancercenter.com.
If you have prostate or lung cancer or whatever, you can see what their survival rates are.
You can also check for participating insurance plans. Cancer Treatment Centers of America is different. It's state-of-the-art medicine, unique treatment options, and a level of compassion that cannot be copied. Why? Our people. People who give you not only their expertise, but their humanity and the most thoughtful, well-organized, patient-centered care you'll find anywhere.
I didn't expect to learn a lesson about how to treat people by being in a hospital.
Every minute counts when you're fighting complex or advanced stage cancer. So please call or visit cancercenter.com today. Appointments are available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Sorry for the delay, folks.
What did we do before cell phones? Seriously, what did you do?
2 tin cans and some string.
I do like the security of having a cell phone, but I hate paying so much for the minutes I don't use.
Why don't you switch to Consumer Cellular? Their plan started at just $10 a month.
Consumer Cellular is the wireless service designed to save money for people who aren't joined at the hip to their cell phones.
I have Consumer Cellular too, and what I like about it is that there's no contract, and I get discounts for being an AARP member.
Is it a prepaid phone like mine?
No, you get monthly billing.
Oh, and they send usage alerts.
So you can change plans anytime without penalties.
When you switch, you can keep your number and we'll give you a free phone.
I'm going to call right now.
I thought you guys didn't like talking on the phone.
Funny.
Plans as low as $10 a month, a free phone, and special discounts for AARP members. Call Consumer Cellular at 1-800-408-7612 or go to consumercellulartv.com.
He's a piano prodigy who graduated from college when he was 19 years old. But this singer and songwriter is best known as an American Idol finalist. Take a look. Scott McIntyre almost never made it to American Idol. At 19, he was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney failure. But through that ordeal, Scott held on to hope. And he's here today singing, I Am Hope. Scott, that was beautiful. Wonderfully
How you doing?
done.
Thank you so much.
Boy,
I appreciate it.
I was reading your book last night. You really know what it's about to sing about hope. Millions of people know you from your American Idol experience, but you were in a fight for your life before that. Tell us a little bit about it.
You know, it was one thing to grow up with a disability and work so hard to overcome that and trust God through all of those challenges. But at 19 years old, I found out I had end-stage kidney failure, and it really really hit me hard. I never talked about this on American Idol, barely talked about it in the media. It's this whole untold part of my story, and I literally had to learn to trust God for my very life. I remember getting so sick, actually, that I couldn't even play the piano in my own living room.
It's like your desire left to do anything except
it was like my dreams were dying in front of me, and I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt God had put me here to share my gifts and talents with those around me. You know, it wasn't for me, it was for other people. And all of a sudden, when I couldn't do that, I felt crushed. But then in 2007, the wife of a former piano instructor from college donated her kidney to me and saved my life.
Astonishing story, really. Just an amazing, amazing gift from her, certainly. And amazing how God sustained you through all of that. Talk about your faith, Scott, and how that held you in not a place, but places that were incredibly difficult.
You know, I think when I first learned I had kidney failure, I almost felt like it was wrong for God to ask me to go through that too, you know, because I had already been through so much.
I kind of felt like that as I was reading your book. I was like, really, God?
And this is what I talk about in the book, By Faith, Not by Sight. I literally had to learn to trust God or trust in nothing. I had to walk by faith, not by sight. I had to trust Him when I couldn't see the way out.
That's why you have such a message of hope for people, though, because you've walked it.
And you know, even though that first, when I learned about it, it was tough. You know, I wouldn't wish what I've been through on anyone, the dialysis, the transplant, that struggle, but I wouldn't change a day of it. I grew so much closer to God. I learned not only to trust Him with my career, with my life, you know, because I knew because of the blindness, there were always things I would never be able to do. Playing baseball, driving a car, seeing when a girl is smiling at me. I couldn't do those things. I couldn't know when they were happening. But then I had to trust Him for my very life, and that was a completely different thing. It was actually less than a year after the transplant was when I auditioned for American Idol, and I was just grateful to be on any stage, let alone the American Idol stage.
Quite an amazing story. What was that experience like for you?
It was probably the most amazing time of my life, being surrounded by people that love music just as much as I do. You know, but I think going through such a life and death situation like that really kept me grounded through the entire experience. I didn't care if I got voted off the very first day or if I made it to the end of the competition. I was just grateful to be alive and to be able to make music again.
You were there. What have you been doing since then?
I have been on a whirlwind. I did the American Idol tour through 52 arenas, first of all, and then I've been on my own tours, got to tour in Japan for the first time, and right now I'm on the brand new Women of Faith one-day tour with someone you know very well, Sheila Walsh.
Yes.
And so we're touring all over the country, and I've been able to speak about my book and perform as well. And I'm really excited to go deeper with this message and talk to people through the book in a way I really couldn't on American Idol.
We should mention that because writing a book is no small.
It was a long it was a lot harder than an album. That song, by the way, is from my Heartstrings album, and it's only in Walmart, so you can walmart.com or in Walmart. But then the book is also being carried in Walmart and in Barnes and Noble, and I'm so excited to share this message because you know, there's only so much you can say in a soundbite, and I want people to walk away knowing that you can and you should reach for your biggest dreams. Reach for those dreams God has put in your heart. And there is no challenge too great. There's no pain that's too hurtful that you can't overcome that if you walk by faith.
No door you can't open.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We should mention in the middle of all of that, you got married as well.
I did. Last August, I got married to my wonderful wife, Christina.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. We had a lovely honeymoon in Kauai. There's actually, in the book, there's a little bit of the romantic story too. So
it's a wonderful story.
There's something for everyone.
There she is. Well, we're so glad to have you with us today. I want to mention again, we've been talking about the book. The title is By Faith, Not by Sight. And the CD, Heartstrings. Both are available wherever books and music can be sold, but especially Walmart is the place to go.
Yes, Walmart and Barnes & Noble. And I wanted to say with the book, we have kind of a cool thing going on. If you have a classroom or a small group or a youth group or an entire church, we have, you can buy 50 books or 1,000 books, and I will actually get on a Skype call with you, or I will even
I'll fly out.
I will fly out and donate a concert to your entire church.
There you go, technology.
So it's all on my website. And
Scott, thank you so much for being with us. It's great to have you here. Will you play us into our break?
I would love to.
Wonderful. A little more music as we go.
had these feelings, and they were very terrifying to me.
A young woman makes a shocking discovery,
Lord, no, I'm not gay. I can't be gay.
then makes a reckless decision.
And thought, well, as long as I'm not gay, that's okay.
Believe it or not, this is a catheter. It's the new SpeediCath Compact for women, now available from Liberator Medical, with full Medicare and private insurance reimbursement. Stay tuned for an exciting free offer. But first, meet Julie.
You know when you leave the house and you say, okay, I have my phone, I have my keys, I have my wallet, I'm good to go? Now I always have to think of a catheter because I can't go without it. SpeediCath came into my life and it is life-changing. They're tiny and thin and you can fit them in your back pocket. You can fit them anywhere you need them. This is a lipstick or lip gloss and this is the size of it. With this, you're only touching the outer plastic and you're never actually in contact with the catheter itself. You just really have to give a sample. That's all it needs is one sample and everyone's going to want them.
Now, here's that free offer I promised. Call Liberator Medical. Get your free SpeediCath Compact sample 6-pack. Shipping is free. 1-800-595-1446. 1-800-595-1446.
Welcome back to the 700 Club. The Arizona legislature has passed a bill banning late-term abortions. The measure prevents women from having the procedure after 20 weeks of pregnancy, except for medical emergencies. The bill also requires the state to maintain a website describing fetuses at different stages of development and presenting women with alternatives to abortion. The measure passed Arizona's House in a vote of 37 to 22. It now heads to Republican Governor Jan Brewer for her signature. A Eureka, California Planned Parenthood chapter launches a prayer campaign in support of abortion. They're calling it, amazingly enough, 40 Days of Prayer, supporting women everywhere. Organizers say the event is, quote, in celebration of women and reproductive rights. Others, though, are speaking out against the campaign. The Liberty Council says Planned Parenthood's prayer campaign is offensive. As much as they might not like the comparison, Planned Parenthood today is no different than the eugenics promoted by its founder, Margaret Sanger, who advocated the elimination of so-called undesirables, just like the most famous eugenicist, Adolf Hitler. The campaign lists 40 different prayers for those involved in an abortion, the mothers, their escorts, and the doctor performing the abortion. It doesn't, however, include a prayer for the unborn baby. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back after this.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now, and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs, and they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
Call 1-800-284-4105. We will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Well, welcome back. Kristen Tremba was a shy little girl who blossomed as a teenager. She was a popular cheerleader who dated lots of boys. Then one afternoon, she had a terrifying experience with a girl.
When I was 7 years old, I gave my life to the Lord.
When Kristen Tremba was young, her spiritual focus was clear, but her self-image was more difficult to establish. She envied her older sister and wanted to be more confident.
All the boys would look at her, and I would feel, wow, I don't measure up. I was insecure. I grew up in the 70s where tomboys were fashionable, and I thought, you know, I wish I was more like them. I wish I was more athletic. I wish I was more confident.
Kristen also longed to be closer to her family.
Even though I knew my mom loved me, I knew my sister loved me, We never just stopped and connected emotionally with each other, and I needed that. And so that emptiness was kind of like a hunger that I needed filled.
In high school, Kristen got involved in lots of activities and was a cheerleader. She dated a lot, looking for the emotional connection she lacked in her family. But something was wrong.
I wanted boys to look at me and desire me. And then when finally boys would ask me out on a date, I noticed that I was kind of numb in their presence. I wasn't excited to go out with them. There was a disconnect there, and it bothered me.
Things got even more confusing one afternoon during play practice.
I was standing in the wings ready to go on stage, and one of the girls came off stage and she was crying and she put her arms around me. And I had these feelings, and they were very terrifying to me because I was a Christian. And I remember driving home thinking, Lord, no, I'm not gay. I can't be gay.
Kristen kept her attraction to girls a secret, but it came up again in college.
I had a roommate that exemplified all those characteristics that I admired in girls, and we became fast friends. But unfortunately, that friendship, for me, turned into sexual feelings for her, and I didn't know what to do. I went to the library to look for materials. I couldn't find anything, certainly no Christian materials. And I left feeling very shameful, like this problem is so bad no one even writes about it.
After college, Kristen joined the Peace Corps, hoping to distract herself from her struggle.
I was hoping, well, now I'll find a husband. And what happened was I exchanged feelings of lesbianism for immorality with men. And I lost my virginity and thought, well, as long as I'm not gay, that's okay.
Kristen got her master's degree at Columbia and started teaching at the Savannah College of Art and Design. Her plan to avoid same-sex attraction unraveled completely.
I fell into a lesbian relationship, physical and emotional. I went through a period of being at a crossroads where I had to decide, can I be a Christian and be in a lesbian relationship?
Kristen and her girlfriend planned to move in together until one day when Kristen says God got her attention.
I felt his presence come over me, and I got on my knees, which I normally didn't do, and prayed. And I said, Lord, I love you, but I don't know what to do. But Lord, more than anything, I want your will to be done in my life.
2 weeks later, the woman called and broke up with Kristen.
You would think I would have been happy, but actually I was angry at God because I thought living in obedience means that I'm going to be unloved, that my needs to love and be loved aren't going to be met.
What came next, Kristen never saw coming.
I was driving down the road one day. I was smoking a cigarette and listening to Alanis Morissette on the radio, and I got hit by a truck. The car was totaled, but I was fine. And I thought, Lord, I can't believe I'm still alive here, but part of me wishes I wasn't. And I just started to break down. And wouldn't you know, I crashed right in front of an apartment where I had prayed with some Christian women. And they came out into the street, and one of them put her arms around me and started to hug me. And she knew about my struggle, so I pushed away from her because I didn't want to give her the wrong impression. And instead, she took my arm and put it right back around. And it was like God telling me, Kristen, I have not come to deprive you of love, but to give it to you. But let me give it to you in my way.
From that moment, Kristen says that everything in her life changed.
I loved the Lord. I just didn't trust him to take care of me, like a good father would take care of his daughter. But at that moment, I knew I could.
Kristen began to study the Bible in earnest.
What God was teaching me is come to me. And so I did. I allowed the Lord to love me in those deep places where I had felt unloved. And he filled me with his love, and he healed my heart. He gave me back my true self. You know, some people say, you're denying your true self, Kristen. And I want to say, oh, you're so wrong. My true self is a child of God, is a little girl who loves God, and that God made me and created me for my sexuality and my sin to identify me. God forbid that any of us take that on as an identity.
Kristen went on to seminary and later joined Exchange Ministries. They offer hope and help to people dealing with homosexuality. 10 years later, she met Mike.
What I had with my husband is a peace that I never had, a peace and a joy that I never had in those other relationships.
Today, Kristen and Mike are happily married and have a daughter of their own. Kristen wants others to know that God is there for them.
The world says that you have to be ruled by your feelings and to have them met on your own terms. And God says, no, come to me. I have everything for you because I created you, I designed you, I know what's best for you.
I let God love me in every part of my being. Deep down inside, we're all looking for love. Every human being wants somehow to be accepted, to be loved, to be cared for. You know, Krista said, you know, I'm like a little girl. There's so many women that you really think of themselves, they're little girls looking for love, looking for a father. And God is the Father. And he says, come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. God loves you, and he wants to put his arm around you. And in her case, she wasn't quite sure what she was. But God says, you are my child. I'll straighten out all this sex stuff. But right now, let me meet the deep need of your heart, which is for love and understanding. Not some physical activity, but deep in your heart, love. And if you're watching this program now, and you're like Krista, you say, I want somebody to love me. And God says, I am going to love you. I love you, and I will satisfy every desire of your heart if you'll just turn over to me and then give me your life, and I'll work things out on these other areas. Just turn yourself over to me. You can trust me. And if you'd like to trust God right now, I want you to pray with me right at this moment. Know he loves you. Know he forgives you for stuff you've done in the past. Know he's going to make everything right. Pray these words. Jesus, that's right, Jesus, I know you died for me, and I know you rose again. Now, Lord, at this moment, I open my heart, my spirit, everything I am, I open to you, and I ask you to come take over. Show me the love that I've been looking for. I want the love of God in my heart. And Lord, please know that from this moment on, I am yours. Thank you, Lord. Amen and amen. If you prayed that with me, that's the beginning. There's a whole adventure ahead of you. And I want to give you something that'll help you get started. It's a little packet. It's called A New Day. And I've got a CD in here, 73 minutes of concentrated explanation of what you've done and what's going to happen in the future, and a little book of scriptures taken from this that'll give you something to read. I'll give you this free if you just call in, but if you prayed with me, it's the most important prayer of your life. 1-800-759-0700. It's a toll-free call. If you want further prayer, further counsel, further discussion, just go to your phones. There are people here who love you and who care about you and who've met themselves the love of Jesus Christ. 1-800-759-0700. Well, I have a little treat for you today. We have a little, you all like little puppies, and I'm a dog lover, and this right here, somewhere, where is she? We'll get her over here. This is Princess Maggie. This is my wife. You just turn her loose. She'll come over here. Come on, Maggie. Come on, baby. Come on, Maggie. Well, she's coming somewhere. Come on, Maggie. Here, baby. Well, she's going to see the... Can you get her over here? Maybe not. Where's she gone? Has she disappeared?
Are you noticing more wrinkles, frown lines, or sagging skin? This is Eloise at age 69. Eloise didn't like how she looked in the mirror. Wrinkles on her face and sagging skin around her neck were making her look old. So she decided to look younger with a lifestyle lift. Here's Eloise today at age 72, looking younger, refreshed, and natural. How did she do it? Call Lifestyle Lift to find out. It's that easy. Get your free information kit and imagine how you can start looking younger today.
Yes, darling. Okay.
Yeah.
There she is.
Can I just say she's grown a tad?
She's grown a tad. Isn't she sweet?
She's beautiful.
She is
She's
an
beautiful.
Irish Water Spaniel, and she does tricks. Maggie, look, hey, look at this. Maggie, hey,
I like
pay attention.
my leash.
No, Maggie, where are you going?
You know,
She
one
says-
of these days you're going to figure out that Maggie does not like to perform on camera.
I think that's right. She's embarrassed. She's hiding.
She is embarrassed. I hope she didn't chew through that cord. She'll be.
What's she doing?
Hi, Maggie. Say, I don't like furniture in my way. What have you got here? Are you chewing your leash? You are beautiful. Yes.
Hey, Hey, Maggie, I've got this for you.
Dad wants you to perform here. Come on.
She said, forget this. I haven't been paid enough money.
Yeah, that's
She wants talent fees.
Meg, she's got her leash in her
Come
mouth.
here.
Hang on.
Here.
Maggie, let go. Drop it. Drop it.
Here,
Good girl.
baby. Isn't that yummy? Yeah, I got something better for
She
you.
says, oh, maybe I do like
All
you.
right. No, she doesn't. She wants to hit her head.
Girlfriend, that's
She's 6
not good.
months old.
Is she going to get a lot bigger than this?
She'll probably double her weight. All right,
double
lie down,
this?
honey. Lie down. Lie down. All right, now roll over. Turn it. Roll
Look
over.
at you,
Roll over.
Miss
That's the
Maggie.
girl. Come on, good girl. All right, speak. Come here. Speak. No, speak. All right, lie down again. Lie down. All right.
Please, Dad, another cookie.
That roll over stuff's kind of fun, isn't it? Here. All right, hot shot. Here, jump. Oh, that's not much jumping. Come on. Oh, you got
The front two jump, the back two follow.
That's right. Yeah.
She's adorable, Pat.
Isn't she cute?
Is she well behaved at home?
Oh, yeah, she's terrific.
Does she chew things?
Are you kidding? Of course, she chews everything, but
She's well behaved, but she chews everything.
She's housebroken.
Yes, well, that's
teach her
the
in
big
a
thing,
cage.
right?
All right, you take your thing and go over there and see them. Okay, I'll see you later. Go on. All right.
She is adorable.
Is she cute?
And maybe she doesn't want to leave.
Boy, no,
Good luck
she's-
there.
Okay.
Okay, we've got some questions from our chat room. You ready?
She didn't speak. I tried to.
She didn't speak. You know, you need a teacher to sing. You can do that, you know. Well, maybe.
Somebody's got to teach me to sing first.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Come on.
Okay, this is Dorothy who says, I know that tithing is the right thing to do, and I do it. I tithe on my gross income and also on any monetary gifts received. My question is, because a tax return is income received, should I tithe on it?
Dorothy, you are extraordinary, and it's between you and the Lord. It's willingness. I mean, you're already exceeding what the standard is.
That's for sure.
If you're tithing on your gross income as opposed to your net, and if you want to, it's a gift of love. They call them love gifts. And if you feel love toward the Lord, this is an expression of your love. God will, give it back. He'll bless you. All right, what else?
This is Sonia who asks, if a wife has a question regarding a husband's fidelity, is it okay to look through emails and his Facebook account to make sure he's trustworthy? I've read different places that if you have the feeling he isn't trustworthy, it's probably true.
I don't think anything like that. If you start a condition of mistrust in your life, it'll be like a cancer.
Well, that's
and
true.
The Bible says that he hates those who stir up animosity among friends, and it's so easy to have that. Have an attitude of trust. Far better to trust. Trust will engender trust, and if suspicion will engender suspicion, don't let it'll eat like a cancer. So don't do it.
This is a viewer who wants to know, what are some practical things that husbands and wives can do to guard their marriages?
Spend time with each other. Set aside special time, like once a week, to go out and have some fun together. I mean, don't always be working. Don't always be looking after the kids. Get babysitters or whatever and go out to dinner or take a little trip if you can for a weekend. Get apart and renew your marriage, because people get tired and they get, the same old stuff, and you need some freshness just in your life. And also, try talking about things. Don't just come home, sit down in front of a TV set, flip on the TV and sit there.
I was thinking of that with the lady who had the concern about fidelity. Sometimes that comes from our own insecurity. we can talk about those things with each other.
Yeah, of course. Well, on that, better not. But but on the other, try to develop. And women. The trouble is, you got married to your husband, and you're a couple of youngsters in the 20s or late teens or whatever, and you were a sweet little girl just out of college or out of high school or wherever you were just out of, and he was sort of level. And the next thing you know, he's moving out into the corporate world, and he's getting promoted, and so suddenly he's out seeing people, meeting, and you're staying home. And before long, a great gulf develops. You need to be reading, you need to be thinking, you need to have your mind engaged so that the two of you can share.
Well, and sometimes today, a lot of people are both out in the work world, and that too can cause separation because you don't really have the
Well, a lot of times the women are getting more interesting things, and the husband, is sort of sitting around drinking beer and getting a fat belly. All right, what's next?
This is Barbara who says, I've been working for a company for almost a year, and now a couple of employees are trying to oust me out of my job. They're working against me to take my holiday pay and give it to a worker they like. I just want to be left alone to work this shift, but they just don't stop. What can I do?
Get another job. Yeah. Go someplace else.
No,
you
right.
just don't need that hassle.
Yeah.
You really don't. All right, what else?
This is Cheryl who asks, what did Jesus mean in Mark 9:1 when he said, there are some standing here who will not taste death till they see the kingdom of God present with power?
Well, they saw his transformation on the Mount of Transformation. I mean, he was transfigured before their eyes, and he began to gleam in front of them, and he was talking to Moses and Elijah. I mean, that was the kingdom of God. They saw it. Mm-hmm. I think that's what he was talking about. All right.
Okay, this is Dee who says, hi, Pat. I was wondering, is there anything in the Bible about having to take your husband's name after marriage? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that's what we've been doing for a long time. I don't know in the Bible what it says, but Ruth, your people will be my people, your God will be my God. Whither you go, I'll go. And it was sort of like I'm part of your family, but it's been a time immemorial custom that wives. But for this cause shall a man leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, the twain will be one flesh. But it doesn't say she has to take his name. So, hey. I still think it's a good idea, if you don't mind. Well, tomorrow, the survivor of a plane crash tells his amazing story. And today we leave you with these words from 2 Corinthians. For we walk by faith and not by sight. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Tomorrow, a born performer hits the big time.
It was all about the fame, the money, the women.
And the drugs.
I injected heroin probably 5 to 15 times a day.
MTV star Bobby Hayden's fall from fame, all the way to Skid Row.
I absolutely remember going a year without a bath.
And the ticket that gave him a way out.
You got to slow this down a little bit, Jesus.
On the 700 Club.
It hindered my ability to walk or run. I had to cancel lessons all the time and cancel all the programs that I had planned. And I saw my career gone. I had never really understood the purpose of money even and what my responsibilities were. And I always thought that we had to have a lot to give. And the more I gave, the more kids would come. I'd like to say, it's my great skills or something. It's not. I'm giving to God. I'm obeying. I'm obedient. That's it. I chose CBN because it helped me find a way to help change the world for Christ. My business has grown 5 times what it was in 2005. 5 times that. I think any type of investment or any type of giving is an act of faith. To be honest with you, I can't wait to write the check. It's the best investment that I can imagine. You can't outgive God.